You're tuned into Inside Lowell. Inside Lowell podcast brought to you in part by Washington Savings Bank, serving the greater Lowell community for over 130 years. Make the switch now to Washington Savings Bank.
WellPoint. Unicare is now WellPoint. New name, same commitment to Massachusetts. At WellPoint, your whole health is their whole point.
Boston North Company, offering a wide variety of business solutions to help restaurant and retail clients save money. Boston North. Mahoney Oil Company, providing warmth and protection to families in Greater Lowell and Southern New Hampshire since 1925. That's Mahoney Oil. Francis E. Preventia Insurance. For auto, home, business, and life, trust the agency Greater Lowell has counted on for more than 40 years. Francis E. Preventia Insurance. GoPuff, a grocery store right at your fingertips. Use the code Lowell20 to receive $20 off your first order of $21, plus free delivery. Download the GoPuff app or visit gopuff.com today. And by the Massachusetts Pirates, bringing all the hard-hitting action and excitement of arena football to the Tsongas Center in Lowell. Get your tickets today by visiting masspirates.football.com. And now, time for another Inside Lowell podcast. Inside Lowell. If Lowell is your home, this is your place.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another Inside Lowell podcast. I am your host, Teddy Panos, coming to you from the WellPoint Studios here in downtown Lowell. Unicare is now WellPoint. New name, same commitment to Massachusetts. At WellPoint, your whole health is their whole point. And we thank our friends at WellPoint for helping to make this podcast possible. We thank all of our sponsors here at Inside Lowell for helping to make all of Inside Lowell possible. And I'd like to thank my special guest for this podcast. She is the CEO, or should I say the outgoing CEO, Chief Executive Officer of the Coalition for a Better Acre. And man, has that organization seen some changes during her decade-long tenure. Yunju Choi is joining us here in the WellPoint Studios. Hi, Yunju. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Thank you so much for having me here today.
It's great to have you here. It was a fascinating couple of weeks back there in November when you announced, you made it public that you would be stepping down at the end of June, and then kind of at the same time, Karen Frederick made it known that she was going to be stepping down at CTI, Community Teamwork, and to me, you guys, your two organizations, along with UTEC, are probably the three that have garnered not just attention in Lowell, but throughout the Commonwealth and in many cases nationwide. So it was kind of an interesting period of time. I think you were the first domino to fall.
Yes, I was.
Has it hit you yet that because we're recording this April 1st, you've got 3 months left. Has it hit you yet that you're not going to be doing this much longer?
Well, yes and no. I've actually been planning to step down. Maybe this is a little bit earlier than I was expecting, but I was actually thinking next year or year after. So this just pushed my time just a little bit. Okay.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you have some health issues with your parents that you want to help out with. But are you going to be kind of retiring for good, or are you going to be seeking other challenges eventually? Because you're far too young to kind of sail off into the sunset, Yunju.
Well, my hope is that this is my last stop as far as actual job is concerned. So I'm sure I'll be looking for some other things to do, volunteer, and I do want to stay involved with Lowell. But right now, my parents, both of my parents actually, my father is 90 and very frail, has dementia. My mom's 86 and has Alzheimer's, and her skill has been declining very quickly. So one of my sister actually already left her job about 4 months ago, so she's helping half time, and then I'll be doing the other half.
Yeah, that's it's admirable, and it reminds me so much of my family and my our Greek culture. My parents always told me, if you ever put us in a nursing home, we're going to come back and get you. Thankfully, we haven't, but I mean it's important. That's what you kind of have to do. You step forward and take care of those who took care of you.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And especially my parents, I'm a first generation immigrant, and I've seen how hard my parents work to put us through schools and provide an opportunity and education that we got. So I am always grateful for their sacrifice, because they, I'm sure, at least my mother's lives would have been a little bit easier if we lived back in Korea.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I want to take a look back at your at kind of your time here. It's amazing to me how much of a transformation the CBA has undergone, the growth of that organization, and the footprint that you're going to leave behind. But what attracted you to the CBA? Because you weren't originally from Lowell, right?
No. So I grew up in Maine, and after college, I moved down to Boston. So I lived in Boston for 20 some odd years. And I knew about CBA, but it really wasn't about CBA, actually. I had actually bought a house in Pelham.
Okay.
And I was commuting down to Boston. I was working for another community development corporation. And this opportunity came out, and I thought I was going to save, commute time and would have a lot more personal time.
Well, you probably saved the commute time,
Yes.
the personal time, not too sure. But what, how did your kind of idea of Lowell and the organization that you knew about kind of change once you got in on the inside? Was it what you expected? Were there any curveballs that you didn't see coming?
I actually knew a little bit about Lowell before coming here. So one of my previous job that I had, I worked for the Boston Foundation, and I worked with a donor who actually he passed away, but from Lowell, from the Acre neighborhood, very, very generous donor. So I had actually been to Lowell several times and gotten tour of Lowell quite a bit, and that's actually how I saw Smith Baker Center as well. And I also have friends and people that I knew, so I had pretty good understanding about Lowell politics and how close-knit community that Lowell was.
So how did you kind of formulate your vision? When did you formulate your vision? And how did you begin kind of putting it in place? Because, a lot of folks think that sometimes these things happen accidentally or there's luck involved. But most effective leaders, no matter what kind of organization, whether it's a private business, restaurant, IBM, or an organization like CBA, you find that the leaders have a vision, the most effective ones, and they can get people in the right place at the right time to make things happen. How did you kind of formulate your vision of what you wanted CBA to be?
So before I talk about myself, CBA's been around for 40 plus years, and over the years, CBA actually had some executive directors that focused on programming and have done a lot of great work. Frank Cavallo, I think, is a great example, who developed 94 Rock Street, which actually it started as a business incubator building that we still own. And I don't know if you know a company called Unwrapped. They're
Yes.
a textile company, so they rented. There's over 300 people that are working there. So Frank Cavallo started that. Frank Cavallo also did a lot of workforce development training and that type of work. But depending on who's leading the organization, and they have different types of skills. So our previous executive director did a lot of real estate development because that was her background. And when I came, I've actually worked for two different community development corporations, but mostly in programming and operations work. So that's actually where my skills were. And I'm a big believer that you can't just build affordable housing and just build more housing for low-income communities. You actually have to provide education resources to really uplift. So that's always been my idea of how you work with the community. It's not about giving handouts. It's about providing opportunities and education to help them be uplifted.
And to me, that's kind of been the biggest shift in direction. Is they did a great job, because I grew up in the Acre, and then I remember how it deteriorated in the 80s, where you didn't even want to drive through the Acre in certain points, let alone live there, open up a business there. And they've done a nice job, kind of developing some job opportunities, business opportunities, and the housing. But you kind of touched on it. You kind of get that bigger overall vision that all of it has to kind of be a part of it as well, including education and community involvement, right?
Absolutely.
Because if the community doesn't really get involved, it doesn't really matter what direction you want to take it in, right?
Oh, absolutely. So one of the first thing that we actually started was after school program, because when I first came and when I was doing need assessment, what I heard was a lot of kids that are living in our properties weren't going to after school program. Some of it was busing issue. So they couldn't actually get bused to Boys and Girls Club or Girls Inc. So they weren't going. And second piece is cultural thing. There are a lot of cultures that doesn't send their kids to after school programs. So we started a small after school program. And that's actually where we started building our programs. And we've always done community engagement and community building work. So that continued. And workforce development training was something that I really wanted to do. So we had created a program called STEP program. It's called supportive transitional education program, which was actually very, very successful. We saw over 80% of success rates of people we trained. But COVID also changed a lot of things. So with COVID, we made a lot of phone calls, and we actually did a lot of work. We never stopped working during COVID. And we found out a lot of, we actually got a lot of understanding about the need of the community. And that also helped us create a lot of new programs during COVID and since COVID. So we actually found out that there's no food pantries in the Acre neighborhood. So we started, because we were delivering food during COVID. So we opened our doors 2 years ago, and we were delivering food to about 20 families. And now we serve over 1,200 families. And so if you actually come to Merrimack Street on Tuesday and Wednesday mornings, you see lines of people, and it's just really unfortunate. But we always say, that's a Band-Aid work that we do, and we do that work because we need it. Our goal really is to provide more education, so we do health access work where we do a lot of workshops to train people about prevention work and how to be active, how to cook healthier meals, utilizing food from food pantry, and so those are the type of things that we really want to work on rather than putting Band-Aids, but that's also needed. And we also provide all of our services, at least in Spanish, as well as some Khmer and Portuguese. So when they walk in, it's a friendly environment with a language access, and we try to have like spices and different things that makes food cultural food. So it's actually been, I think that's actually why we have so many people coming, because every month we have more people coming.
What would you say is the biggest challenge you faced in your decade?
Well, funding to build affordable housing, it's a very competitive field, and it takes such a long time. And I think there isn't a real understanding of what affordable housing really is. Affordable housing actually just means people are paying less than 30% of their income. So that's what we try to build, right?
Almost impossible nowadays, right?
Absolutely. And, you know the stats that, over 50% of Lowellians are, burdened by their rents. And that's not people that are living in our housing or LHA housing. That's actually general public. And housing prices has gone up so much. The rent has gone up by like 60% in the Acre neighborhood in the last, I would say, 4 or 5 years. So and low median income. Family of 4 is 64,000, and area median income, that's actually the number that we use when we build housing. And for family of four, area median income is $134,000 for a family of four. So low.
Right.
Actually, really, we need to actually, increase the wages, but not in a way, not in a way like, minimum wage needs to go up. It's really how do you provide skills for people to be able to get those jobs, right?
Yeah, it's impossible to live in Massachusetts and most of the country if you're just at minimum wage or just above that. The importance of those good paying jobs. How much of a language barrier do you face, or a challenge, I should say, because the Acre's always been home to the various immigrant groups that came in, but it was a lot. You mentioned Hispanic, and that's still a language that you provide all the services in. But it seems to me like even besides the Hispanic and the Southeast Asian, that now you're starting to see new waves of groups coming in from Northern Africa in particular, and those are multiple languages now. So I would imagine translating all these services that are available to the new residents is becoming quite a challenge for you guys, right?
Oh, absolutely. But we actually have language lines. So at CBA, we speak, I believe, 7 different languages. So we do have some language capacity, and we do have language lines. So when we have people that needs some certain languages, we can use that to translate. But we try not to use as much of the language line just because it's expensive.
Right.
But we definitely make that work. We do have a huge Portuguese speaking new community members.
Okay.
So there's actually a big Brazilian community that just newly arrived Brazilian community. So Portuguese actually is the language that's actually really needed right now.
And we got some of the old school Portuguese groups that came in to come back and help. I do want to talk about the Smith Baker Center quickly because it's been in the news a lot, and you mentioned it. Was that your biggest disappointment, that you weren't able to save that building, and now its future is in serious doubt?
It's a disappointment because just because I saw it, and it's such a beautiful building. Outside it's beautiful, but inside of that building and over the years I've seen the deterioration. So I've actually witnessed, because I had access to the building until a few years ago. So it's very disappointing, and I know there are a lot of people that still wants to revive it. When CBA made a decision that we couldn't pursue, we were coming out of COVID, and we wanted to make sure that we were focusing on recovery and helping the community. And I just didn't have capacity to be able to raise kind of money to do that building. And in my guesstimation, it may cost about $35 million.
So there's a lot of discussion about what kind of condition it's really in. You've been inside that within the last handful of years. How bad is it? And is that going to be a deterrent to anyone from coming in? In your mind, is it still salvageable? Because I imagine you did some kind of in-depth look and study at it, right?
I mean, with money, anything can be rehabbed, but there's so much water damage, the walls, and so they would really have to engineers have to really look at what kind of damages the building has. When I first saw it, and I want to say 15 years ago or so, the floors were in great condition, and you can't walk on, and this was 5 years ago, you can't walk on the floors. Wow. Because it's just so warped.
It's funny, I remember I spent a lot of time in there. We used the Greek school, the Hellenic American school at the time, used to do our Greek Independence Day programs in there. We didn't have our cultural center on Broadway Street. And it was beautiful. And that's, I remember the great seating, this nice stage, and of course those organ pipes were kind of the centerpiece of that entire room. So I always wondered, like, how did it deteriorate that badly that they put an X on it, and now there's just as much of just as many people pushing to just tear it down and start from scratch as there are trying to save it.
Well, it's a difficult space, and more I thought about actually what could happen. and combining community center with the performance sounds really good, but when you really think about what needs to happen when, and then the sound, so when you have concerts, the building needs to be available all day. So I do think that there would be some, balance work, balance act that you have to have in order for you to be able to combine those things. But it's a beautiful building, so if anyone can save it, I would love to see it saved.
Would you be averse to something that takes most of the structure down, salvaging whatever you can from the exterior, and to use it as housing? Most people have talked about housing and maybe a first floor retail housing above mix. Is that something that you or you think the folks in the CBA would be against?
Oh, no, I mean, I think, to save any kind of historic, structure would be a nice thing. But again, historic preservation is so expensive, and so that would be where my concern would be. Tearing down a building is so much, and building a brand new building is so much cheaper.
Right. Yeah. It reminds me so much of the old Rialto building, and when Middlesex bought that and it made it it's now the Nancy Donahue Theater. But while the facade that you look at on Central Street looks a lot like the old building, if you drive behind it, you notice, oh boy, they took down a lot of that and kind of rebuilt. And that's what, to me, that I think is the only hope. Yeah. For really salvaging Smith Baker. There's no way they're going to be able to keep most of that structure. And from what you have just said, it sounds even less likely to me anyway.
But what's so beautiful about that building to me is the stained glass windows and the organ, like how massive that is in that building. So, could you save some of that? And the front part of the building is beautiful. Yeah.
Does the organ still work? Did you go over there and try to press some of the keys?
I don't think
No?
so. I think it needs. I think it needed a lot of work, but I hear acoustic is really good in that space. So if someone can, if I won megabucks, I would absolutely put money in there to salvage that building.
All right. Well, hopefully somebody like you hits the lottery. We're chatting with Yunju Choi, the outgoing CEO of the Coalition for a Better Acre. She's joining us here in the WellPoint studios. Let's talk about all the things that are going on now and what really, to me, is going to be your legacy as you go. There's a lot of things. You're going out in a blaze of glory. There's a lot going on. Acre Crossing is opening. That's soon, right?
My understanding is April or May.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's imminent. You're going to get that ribbon cutting there, but there's so many other little projects as well that you're involved with. And then just recently, 2 weeks ago, I think it became public that you received a $1 million award, a very prestigious award. You kind of talked on social media that you guys were celebrating that day, right?
Yes. Oh, we were so excited. I got an email actually, and initially I thought it was one of those spam. Congratulations, you won $1 million. But then when I saw yield giving, because we had applied for it, and our office was just we were in such a in celebration mode. We have offices on second and third floor, and I'm up on third floor, and people from second floor thought something happened, and they walked out because we were all yelling and screaming and crying, and it was such a wonderful opportunity.
That's great. And you've talked about how that will pave the way for you guys to do another thing that you've really wanted to do. Are you at liberty yet to talk about exactly how you're going to spend that money?
Yes. Actually, I think I've actually already posted it. So it just happened maybe a couple days after we heard that we would be receiving this money. There was actually a property they came out in the Acre neighborhood for same amount of money, actually minus $1. And
did you identify the property?
I haven't identified the property, but it's in the Acre.
Okay.
Yes. So we actually, and we can't normally make cash offers because it takes us a long time to borrow money, and there has to be a lot of due diligence before we can borrow money. And so we were able to make a cash offer. And the cash offer was accepted, so we're actually just waiting for 21E study, and then after that, we should be able to close to, get that building. So we're really excited.
So what will the finished product be?
We're hoping to build about 40 units of rental units. We did actually look at home ownership opportunity, but we just couldn't make the numbers work on that. So, but 40 units of housing with this $1 million, that, this probably will be $20-25 million project. So we'll be bringing additional $20-25 million into the Acre neighborhood because of this $1 million we received.
So on top of all the work that you're doing and other organizations in the Acre, the Commonwealth through Mass Development has come through with these TDI, the Transformative Development Initiative. So I know there's a lot of cool things happening there. And just over the last 2 weeks, UMass Lowell has announced its plans for the Lowell Inc., as they're calling it. But they talked during these announcements, they've talked an awful lot about how that will kind of spread up into it really is the Acre neighborhood, and then it's going to spread up and how it has the potential to kind of transform the Acre as well. So there's a lot of things happening kind of at the same time as you're getting ready to leave. Any regrets?
No regrets. And, I'm hoping that they'll, bring on someone, in Kerrville who brings different kind of skills, as I have certain skills, but then there are, skills that I absolutely lack. So I think it's an exciting time for CBA to bring someone new with with a new perspective who may be able to transform the organization.
Are you getting any input into your successor, and are there any potential internal candidates that may be ready to kind of step up and have some continuity from your time there?
So we don't have internal candidate. The search process has started. I am not going to be part of decision making, so I actually don't want to see it because I'm sure there are people that I know who are applying, and I'm sure our board and committee will make the right decision for the organization.
Is the plan to have somebody ready to go for July 1st, maybe even if they be brought in a month ahead of time to kind of do a transition with you?
That's the hope, and even if they can't start until after, my plan is to help them with the transition. I'm not going anywhere, so I'm in Lowell, and I'll be taking care of my parents in Lowell. So if I need to, stay a little longer, which I rather not, but if I need to, I don't think it makes sense to have an interim, who comes in, who has to learn the organization and the job for, a month or two. Right. It doesn't make sense. So even if I have to, do some part-time work.
Okay, you're available for that. You said you're going to stay active and you're going to stay involved. Could we see a political future for you at some point?
Right now, that's not on my cards.
Well, it's not an election year right now. 2025, 2027 might be, though.
But I mean, you can't never say never, because I never thought I would be here doing, being in Lowell and doing what I do. So I thought, when I was younger, I thought I was going to be in Wall Street and working in finance and being a big stockbroker. So you can't say never.
You realize you just left that door wide open, and all of us who report on Lowell politics and in the political bubble, every time an election comes up, we're going to be reaching out to you, right? You didn't put that to bed.
Well, probably not, but I have a lot of interest in politics, and I've always been a political junkie, and I pay a lot of I pay a lot of attention to Lowell politics, which I think is very interesting, and or I could help others, right? Help others with their campaign. That's something that I chose not to do. During my work at CBA, I haven't actually, helped any candidates since I left Boston. In Boston, I have helped candidates, but here even my good friend Vanna Howard, when she was running, many people held signs for her, and I chose not to because I wanted to stay neutral, working for CBA. So once I leave, I think I can do a little bit of that work.
There you go. You can scratch that that itch, as you said. How would you like to be remembered?
Oh, that's a tough question. I feel like I still have a lot more to go, so I don't know if I should be talking about how I should be.
I should reword that. You're right, because you've got a long way to go, and we didn't rule out a future involvement. But in terms of your time at the CBA, what would you like kind of your lasting people to remember about you?
I guess, if people remember me as someone who understands the community and who wants to uplift the community and be inclusive and someone who actually Kathy Mercado says I'm one of the best networkers. So but someone who is a connector. I try to connect different people to others, or that's something that I always try to do when I meet someone. I want to connect someone if they don't know, or if there's opportunities. So maybe someone who did decent job connecting, different people to opportunities.
Well, I think as modest as that answer was, I think decade from now and well off into the future, people are going to kind of drive by some of these new developments, the ones that we talked about now, but some of the ones that you've already done, going past the courthouse there on Gorham and whatnot. And I think folks will remember, like, these happened during Yunju's time. And so thank you for your service to the community and whatever else is coming. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank you for the gift you brought me, because I've heard an awful lot about this book. It's called Legends of Little Canada. It's getting a lot of praise in the local circles here, and you brought me my own copy in here to have. So thank you for that as well.
It's such a great book, but it also tells you why Charlie Gajulo was so motivated to start an organization like CBA. Charlie and I actually keep in touch, and actually I talk to him all the time, and I love Charlie, and but this book really tells you like why. And it's such a great book. So even if you didn't know anything about Little Canada or Lowell, it's a great book.
Yeah, and I've seen you mention how you and he still have a relationship. And I have a hunch that whoever replaces you and maybe the person after that is always going to be able to reach out and talk to you as well. So are you going to write a book? Are you going to, maybe we can have a book about your time?
That's not my skill. That's not my skill set. As I said, there are things that I'm good at, but, writing books and, public speaking, those aren't my, forte. So.
All right. Fair enough. Yunju Choi, thank you for joining us here in the WellPoint Studios.
Thank you so much for having me.
And congratulations.
Today. Thank you.
And thank all of you for joining us as well here on Inside Lowell. As we like to say, if Lowell is your home, this is your place. Till next time, stay safe, everybody.